Excuses are chains you put on yourself, willingly. David Goggins. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You haven't achieved anything, not because life is unfair, but because every single day you justify your inaction. You blame the system. You blame your past. You blame others. And in the end, you always find a reason not to move. Excuses are your drug. They give you a sense of control, while they silently steal your power. You tell yourself, "It's not the right time. I'm too tired. I've already tried." But behind every excuse hides fear, and that fear is running your life. Let's be honest. You're not lazy. You're just scared. Scared to fail again. Scared to feel pain again. Scared to lose what little comfort you still have. So you build cages made of words, logical, smart-sounding, spiritual even. But still cages. No one taught you this, but you need to hear it. The more you justify, the more powerless you become. The more you explain your pain, the deeper it controls you. You're not broken. You're just buried under layers of perfectly rational excuses. And the worst part? The people around you help you justify. Society rewards you for being realistic, for staying in your place, for being quiet, for not trying again. That's how they keep you numb. That's how you become manageable. But here's the truth. Every excuse is a small surrender. Every "I can't" is a quiet way of saying, "I give up." And you've been giving up for too long. This video is not about motivation. It's not about believing in yourself. It's about exposing the lies you tell yourself every day. Lies that sound like self-care, like self-love, like wisdom. But deep down, you know, it's fear. Dressed up, polished, acceptable. You don't need another plan. You don't need another course. You need to burn the illusion that your excuses are valid. Because they're not. Not anymore. And you know this. Deep down, in the silence of your mind, you know. The excuses have run their course. They gave you safety. Now, they give you chains. If you keep waiting for a better day, for more energy, for someone to believe in you, you will die waiting. And no one will come. No one is supposed to. That was never the deal. It's brutal, yes, but it's real. And real is what you need now, because only truth can wake you up. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your pain is not your enemy, and how your excuses are the only thing standing between you and the life that could have been yours. This is not a message for everyone. Not everyone is ready to hear it. But if you're still here, it means something in you is already tired of hiding. No more lies. No more "I'm not ready." No more "they won't understand." If your life is burning down, you don't explain it. You get out of the fire. Let's begin. Excuses are seductive because they sound like truth. You say you're tired, and you are. You say you've tried before, and you have. You say life is hard, and it is. But none of that changes the fact that you're using these truths as shields. Shields that keep you stuck, passive, small. This is how the mind tricks you. It builds a prison out of real things. It's not lying to you. It's distorting the meaning of what's real, turning discomfort into a verdict. You're not just tired. You've made tired a lifestyle. You've made it an identity. Every excuse starts as a defense, but left unchecked, it becomes a story. A story about why you can't move forward, why it's not your fault, why you should be understood instead of challenged. This story may feel safe, but it rots from the inside. You know this. Every time you say "I can't" and secretly feel shame, that's your soul calling bullshit. You're not mad at the world. You're mad at yourself for pretending too long, for accepting the version of you that others find convenient. Here's what most people won't tell you. Society feeds your excuses on purpose. The more you justify, the easier you are to manage. You become predictable, scared, agreeable. You stop asking for more. You stop risking. And that makes you useful for someone else's agenda. You stay quiet. They stay in control. You stay broken. They get to feel strong. That's the hidden contract you've signed without knowing. They reward your self-doubt with sympathy. They reward your stagnation with distractions. They reward your passivity with likes, validation, comfort. And you call it normal. But here's the deeper lie. You think you're protecting yourself. You think avoiding the pain of failure will save you. But all you're doing is extending the pain of not living. Failure is a wound, but excuses are infection. They spread. They weaken you. They make every future choice harder. You no longer ask, "What's possible for me?" You ask, "What can I get away with without feeling too uncomfortable?" That's how you die before you're dead. And what's worse, the smarter you are, the better your excuses become. You use logic, psychology, self-awareness, even trauma, as reasons to stop moving. But truth doesn't care how articulate your story is. Truth doesn't flinch when you quote your therapist. Truth sees you behind the mask, and it keeps knocking, louder, until you either wake up or collapse under the weight of your own narrative. If these words are hitting something, it's not an attack. It's a mirror. I'm not against your pain. I'm not denying your struggles. I'm saying that using them as lifelong permission, slips to stop trying, is killing you. Slowly, quietly, elegantly. If you feel that, then don't keep this truth to yourself. Subscribe to the channel right now, because someone else out there is trapped in the same illusions, and they need to hear this. And join the Telegram. That's where the real conversations happen, where we go deeper, without filters, without the masks. And if you saw yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." Let's see how many of us are done lying to ourselves. Let's see who's ready to stop explaining and start transforming. A life without excuses is not a life without fear. It's a life where fear no longer gets to decide. You don't become fearless. You become unwilling to let fear hold the steering wheel. When you stop justifying your inaction, your suffering becomes honest, not dramatic, not manipulated, just raw, clean. That clarity is power. Because when there are no more stories to hide behind, all that's left is you and what you choose to do next. Without excuses, you see yourself clearly, not as a victim, not as a hero, just as a human being with choice. And choice is everything. The moment you stop saying, "I can't," you begin to see what's actually possible. You stop negotiating with your limitations. You stop giving your pain the final word. You start moving, awkwardly, slowly, maybe even angrily. But you move. And every movement without justification adds weight to your self-respect. When you stop making excuses, the people around you will feel it. Some will respect it, others will resent it, because your presence will become confrontational. Not because you say anything, but because you exist as proof that excuses are optional. You'll notice how many people still live trapped in beautifully polished lies, and you'll grieve for them, but you won't join them. Not anymore. Life without excuses is quieter. There's less mental noise. You stop spending your energy explaining yourself to others. You stop arguing for your limitations. And in that silence, something new appears. Space. Space to feel, to think, to act. Not because you're forcing it, but because nothing's blocking it. That's where flow begins, not in motivation, in the absence of mental resistance. You also begin to feel your limits in a different way. You still get tired, still get scared, but now you meet those states with honesty, not with defense. You say, "I'm scared, and I'm going anyway." You say, "I'm tired, but this still matters." That's how integrity is built, through action in the presence of discomfort, not pretending it's easy, but refusing to be ruled by the difficulty. This isn't about being strong all the time. It's about no longer lying to yourself when you're weak, no longer calling it healing when you're hiding, no longer calling it acceptance when you've simply stopped trying. Without excuses, your soul comes out of hiding. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And finally, you're able to hear it. That whisper becomes your compass. And once you hear it, there's no going back, because you've tasted something real. A version of you that doesn't need applause, doesn't need permission, doesn't need to be perfect. A version that simply acts, because it must, because there's no other honest option left. That's the you that was buried under years of justification. And that's the you we're about to uncover, step by step. Step 1, brutal self-honesty. No progress is possible until you stop lying to yourself. Every excuse has one goal: to soften the blow of truth. But real change begins the moment you say, "This is on me." Not in shame, not in guilt, in clarity. You don't need to attack yourself. You need to stop protecting the lie. Say it out loud: "I've been avoiding responsibility." That sentence burns. And that burn is where healing starts. Step 2, expose the secondary gain. Behind every excuse is a secret reward. Maybe you get sympathy. Maybe you avoid failure. Maybe you feel safe in stagnation. But until you identify what your excuse is giving you, you'll never let it go. It's not just laziness. It's strategy. Unconscious, but real. Your mind is smart. It uses fear to keep you away from uncertainty. The only way to take back control is to call out the deal. I'm choosing comfort over growth, and I'm done with that. Step 3, replace "I can't" with "I won't." Language matters. When you say "I can't," you create a lie that feels like truth. But when you say "I won't," the illusion dies. You're forced to face choice. Saying "I won't change" is painful, but it reveals the truth. And truth is a weapon. Use it. Own it. Speak in sentences that hurt a little, because only then they can cut through the fog. Step 4, act without motivation. Stop waiting to feel ready. You won't. Stop waiting to feel inspired. It's a myth. The only way out is action. Small, daily, consistent movement. Discipline is not punishment. It's liberation. Every time you do something without needing to feel like it, you reclaim power from the mind that's been hijacked by comfort. You show yourself that you can be more than your emotions. Step 5, return to the body. Excuses live in the mind. Stories, fears, narratives, but truth lives in the body. Breath, movement, presence. When you move, you reconnect. When you breathe with awareness, you interrupt the cycle. Start simple. 5 minutes of silence. 10 minutes of walking. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your weight. The more you reconnect with your physical presence, the less power your mental lies have. Step 6, leave the victim role. No one is coming to save you. The sooner you grieve that, the sooner you grow up. Being a victim gives you something: protection, pity, community. But it costs you everything. The moment you say, "No more blaming," you terrify your ego. But that terror is freedom. It's the death of dependence. and the birth of agency. Step 7. Choose action over emotion. Your feelings are not commands. Your fear is not your ruler. Your sadness is not your end. Every time you act in spite of what you feel, you expand. Every time you act because of what you believe, not because of what you feel, you take back your life. Control doesn't mean never feeling weak. It means choosing your response even when you feel broken. These are the 7 steps. Not secrets, not hacks, just truth. Applied, lived, repeated. You don't need to master them. You need to start walking. 1 step a day, 1 choice at a time. And with each one, the noise gets quieter, and your power louder. Your excuses aren't just habits. They're defense mechanisms. They are rooted in something deeper, the parts of you that you've exiled, the rejected, hidden, shameful sides you never wanted to face. This is your shadow, the unconscious part of you that holds the pain, the rage, the envy, the fear, the neediness, not because you're evil, but because somewhere along the line, you were taught those parts are unacceptable. So you buried them. And now they speak, through sabotage, through procrastination, through constant justification of why you're not doing what you came here to do. The shadow is not a monster. It's a child, a wounded child you've locked in the basement of your psyche. Every time you say, "I'm not ready," that child whispers, "Don't see me." Every time you say, "I can't handle this," the shadow reinforces the story that you're too fragile. But what you're actually afraid of is not life. It's yourself. The part of you that's angry, that wants more, that doesn't want to be nice or polite or acceptable. That part scares you because it's wild, uncontrolled, real. This is why healing isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming whole. Integration means turning toward the part of you you've been running from, looking it in the eye, and saying, "I see you. You're allowed to exist." You don't need to fix your shadow. You need to let it speak, let it breathe, let it stop fighting to get your attention through breakdowns and bad choices. Excuses are the language of a rejected self trying to survive. When you constantly explain your failures, it's your inner child begging for protection. When you lash out, when you freeze, when you avoid, it's not immaturity, it's the shadow acting out. And the more you punish it, the louder it gets. That's why you keep ending up in the same situations, same patterns, same breakdowns. You're not broken, you're split. The people who scare you most, the ones who trigger your shame or your envy, often mirror your shadow. That's why you can't stand them. Because deep down, they show you something you're hiding from, something you don't allow yourself to be. And until you stop denying those parts, you'll keep living a filtered life. Controlled, sanitized, powerless. There's freedom in saying, "Yes, I am messy. Yes, I feel anger. Yes, I want things I'm ashamed of." Not to act on all of it, but to stop pretending it's not there. Because whatever you reject controls you. Whatever you deny owns you. And when you finally integrate the shadow, something strange happens. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending your every move. Because you know who you are, light and dark, whole. This is the moment where the game changes, when excuses fade and truth stands. Not perfect, but honest. That's the power of shadow work. Not spiritual, not poetic, just real, raw, human, and exactly what you've been avoiding. Until now, when you stop making excuses, something unexpected happens. Silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of no longer needing to explain yourself to the world. That's where your real voice appears, because it's not trying to justify, it's simply present. You begin to feel your own energy in a new way, not as potential you might someday tap into, but as something already available, already burning beneath the surface. It was never missing. It was only blocked. The first thing you'll notice is the mental noise disappearing. That constant internal debate. Should I? Can I? What if? Fades. Why? Because now, decisions come from choice, not fear. You're no longer arguing with yourself. You say, I will, and you do. Not always perfectly, not always with ease, but without drama. You stop seeking permission from parents, from peers, from strangers, on the internet. And in that space, action becomes sacred, private, yours. You'll start to scare people, not because you become aggressive, but because you become clear. Clear people are threatening in a world built on confusion. When you say no, you mean it. When you say yes, you own it. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You stop apologizing for your standards. This clarity repels those who once fed on your doubt, but it attracts others, real ones, people who respect themselves and you, people who don't need your weakness to feel strong. You'll also feel grief, not because something's wrong, but because you'll realize how long you've lived beneath your potential. You'll feel the weight of wasted time, missed chances, the years spent negotiating with fear. Let it hurt. That pain is sacred. It means you're awake now. It means you're seeing clearly. And that grief will pass, not into regret, but into fire. A fire to never go back. A fire to protect this new clarity like your life depends on it. Because it does. What replaces excuses is not perfection, it's self-respect. You begin to walk differently, not as someone trying to prove their worth, but as someone who no longer questions it. You speak with less words, you listen with more presence. You work, not to be validated, but because it feels good to build, to move, to shape your reality with your own hands. You stop chasing results, you start building character, and the world begins to respond. Opportunities appear, not because the universe magically shifts, but because your energy becomes undeniable. People sense when someone is no longer lying to themselves. They trust it, they're drawn to it, and even if they don't understand it, they feel it. That's your new currency, inner congruence. No noise, no games, just aligned action. This is the reward for killing your excuses. Not applause, not ease, but peace. Not a fantasy life, a real one. One you can look at in the mirror without flinching. One you can stand inside without pretending. That is what becomes possible when you stop explaining and start living. Excuses are not harmless thoughts. They are the silent killers of dreams. Every time you say, I'm not ready, you delay the life that's already waiting for you. Every time you justify inaction, you hand your power to fear. Excuses don't protect you. They trap you. And the price is everything. Your freedom, your impact, your potential. You think you're being careful, but what you're really doing is dying slowly under the illusion of logic. When you destroy excuses, you don't just become more productive, you become unstoppable. You start thinking clearly, choosing boldly, acting without seeking approval. That's the gateway to the life you've always imagined. Financial independence, creative freedom, mental clarity, emotional resilience, deep relationships. These things are not reserved for the lucky. They are earned by those who refuse to explain away their own power. Everything you want already exists. It's just hidden behind the lies you've been telling yourself. When those lies fall, everything shifts. Fast. You stop settling. You stop waiting. You stop asking for permission, and you start building. Every single thing you've ever desired, peace, success, control, self-respect, becomes available the moment you choose truth over comfort, the moment you kill every excuse in your path. If you feel that, if something inside you knows this is your time, then don't let this truth stay inside your head. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. That way, more people will hear the words they've been waiting for. And join the Telegram. Because there, the mask comes off, and we go deeper. That's where the real work begins. And if this video said what you've been afraid to admit, write in the comments, "I destroy all excuses." Say it not just as a comment, but as a commitment. Let's see who's ready to stop running and finally live.